So Isaiah has been working on this organization called UrthKynd as a nonprofit to educate people about regenerative farming and to maybe start some sort of urban gardening cooperatives where people would work together to do gardening. And so we've been talking about this for a while now, and we're getting some details of his plan worked out. We invite the community to come and join us and talk through this with us because it is a community project and we want other people to get involved. So that's why we're live streaming it. And also for anybody who's curious and just wants to learn about community building, community organizing, regenerative business and such. So please join the conversation. We're live streaming right now on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. So in any of those venues, if you want to comment, there's either a chat room or comments, and I've got my chat room open here so I can see you. So please, join in on the conversation. Just say hey. Ask any question you want, say whatever input you've got, and we will involve you in the conversation as soon as we get to like a pause in our talking. So yeah, that's what we're here to do. So let's just start with a check-in. How are you doing, Isaiah?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. It's great, cool weather, and making progress on the microgreens, I guess, test, if you will. So I'm doing great. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Cool, great. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well too. Except that my power was out for a week straight. Just came back on a few days ago. And so I wasn't able to stream at all. And I was also finishing my final paper for my master's degree, which I submitted a draft. I'm still kind of in a final editing and review process right now. So it's going to be about another month until I'm like totally done with that. And I still need to do like peer review and self-review and all of this stuff. So, I just don't have a whole lot of time to put into gathering an audience around this. I will soon. But yeah, we're still working on the project, and that's really all that matters. We're making progress, right?
Yes, we are making progress for sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump back into our conversation. So as the audience, if you're new, you see below me, I have my Regenerative Enterprise Design Canvas, and if you need more information about Isaiah and his project, it's down there, although we've kind of veered off course from our original conversation because we've started talking about a cooperative more than we were talking about a nonprofit. So yeah, we've been discussing this idea of starting a cooperative with microgreens and possibly mushrooms and other kind of indoor crops inside Isaiah's house. And that initially it would just be him, and then he may involve one or two other people, but that there would also be outdoor gardens where he would educate people, do classes and such, and involve them in some community gardening, but that would be kind of on the path to recruiting them into this cooperative structure where they could then become workers. And once they really know what they're doing, then they could become producers and be doing it on their own and just supplying food to this cooperative network. So I'm really excited about this idea. In fact, I'm thinking about doing it myself here in Norman, Oklahoma. He's in Los Angeles, California. And yeah, I've been thinking through it. I've been thinking out the details, of exactly how I would do it, which might be a little bit different than how Isaiah does it. So I don't want to impose too much of my ideas, but I will probably share some of them, or all of them. I'll dump it on you, take it or leave it, But yeah, what we're looking at is a triple multi-stakeholder cooperative is what I'm trying to say, with customers, workers, and producers. And I'm on the page right now in our workbook where we filled out the circles. And so I'm just pointing out to everybody that there's a customer level, there's a worker level, there's a producer's level, and then there's a board level that people could climb up in. And I was thinking the other day how this can be kind of thought of as a game, like people are leveling up. And I think it's kind of an easy way to get people engaged in things if they're like, yeah, I need to level up. But anyway, and they would have some education and contributions they would have to make to get more into the cooperative, more involved. And so we were just talking about the governance, the roles, the actual positions within the cooperative. I'm not sure, did we talk in detail about the board of directors? We did say that the ownership structure would be that the members would vote for the board, and then there would be a representative for each class, and then they would make legal decisions for the cooperative. I think we could fill this out a little bit more. Let's go back for just a second with the board of directors. I was just thinking about this earlier today. So you've got workers, customers, and producers. What do you think about how they would vote for the board? How many seats would be on the board? What kind of representation they'd have? Do you have any thoughts on that, Isaiah?
So I remember, so I'm looking at the notes. Last time we broke them down into different groups. So I'm guessing each group is, and let me know if I'm getting off course, but each group is electing their own director, perhaps, or the director.
Well, so it's a board of directors, so yeah, they can each be called a director. Yeah.
Okay, but then we have the different groups, right? Art director, tech director, policy.
Well, that's in the governance. So
okay.
Sorry, I'm being confusing because I went back to talking about the ownership structure because I noticed that we didn't get into detail there. And I thought that maybe before we get into more detail with the governance, we might want to go back because I just feel like we kind of maybe jumped over that. And I was just thinking about it earlier today. I was thinking through how many seats I would want on the board if I was doing it. So I'm just being selfish and being like, oh, I want to talk about this. So yeah, what do you think? On the board. And let me be clear, the board doesn't have to do much. They might meet once a quarter. They just approve the budget. They track the budget that we're staying on budget. Do
they help with fundraising though?
They could, but that's not a necessary thing. They don't have to do anything other than what they're legally required to do, which is make legal decisions and ensure that the cooperative is making, at least breaking even.
Yeah. How many? That's a good question. Maybe let's pick 5. No.
And they're also going to be hiring. They usually would hire the CEO, unless you have some sort of other democratic kind of structure where, and we might have even talked about that a little. I think you were saying something about people being elected more, or maybe that was my other client. I don't know. I think he was more like, oh, I want these people to be elected on, as for the kind of managers even. He wanted the workers to elect their managers. I don't know if I totally agree with that. Usually the board of directors would hire the CEO and then they would hire everybody else.
Mm-hmm. So there's, the board is I'm thinking offhand, in terms of contribution, what does the cooperative need, and can any of those needs be fulfilled through the board? And if the board is a powerhouse, so to speak, of people who are experienced, so they really get what we're doing, or they really get their aspect.
Yeah, I would think mostly they would be there for advice and maybe promotion. So yeah, they could be talking about it, but not as hourly kind of workers. Just they're just telling people about it wherever they go, and and they give you advice when you ask for it. But they're not salaried employees or anything. So it just it needs to be minimal. I mean, you don't expect a board to put in 40 hours a week. It's 2 hours a month would be ideal.
Right. Yeah. So do you always want to shoot for an even number with things?
No, you want odd.
You want an odd number?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, let me just spit it out. I was thinking, just say 3. There's a worker rep a customer rep and a producer rep. And once they're elected as those, then they could decide amongst themselves which of them is acting as president, secretary, and treasurer in their meetings. But I actually think you don't want to elect a treasurer. How about you get 3 people and they just decide amongst themselves who's the best at doing the money? Or who wants to take care of that? Like, yeah, I don't see like a real point in electing those positions. You need representatives. That's for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Unless you want to just add 2 more and make it a 5 and have like a president and vice president who represent everybody or something.
Yeah, and they would get their feedback from the leadership of the groups, the working groups, I guess. Is that how it would work? So they would send out surveys to the directors of, I mean, this is way far ahead, I think, but it's good to have this structure thought out. Yeah, just going back to that open line of communication. Yeah, I like the idea of a total of 5.
Okay.
Open door.
5 members. And so, I'm thinking like a president and vice president, because they kind of represent everyone, and maybe have those be elected by everyone, and then have the 3 representatives for the 3 classes that just represent or particularly represent their interests. What do you think? Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
I mean, you could call it something other than president and vice president. Customer rep, worker rep, producer rep. Okay. I mean, that's a lot to start out with. I mean, if you're going to actually incorporate this anytime soon, you're going to have to come up with 5 people.
Oh, right.
That's why I was thinking 3. So I can I can be one of them,
Yeah. Start with 3 and kind of see where it goes. Yeah, because I mean, I imagine.
Because you can always add more. Okay. I'm gonna put in the 3, and then I'm gonna put in a parentheses president and vice president. And once you have other people involved, then maybe they'll have a say and they can decide. You can decide that together. You don't necessarily need to decide it up front. But I think starting with less and then adding more is a better strategy than starting out with too many and then trying to take them away. You know what I mean? It's harder to go that way.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, and as I was saying, they just make legal decisions. Do you think they should hire your, CEO or executive team leader or whatever you want to call
him? I think they should have a say-so. Definitely. Yeah. They should have a say-so in it. Like,
I mean, they need to have some way, because they're responsible for making sure that the co-op makes money. They need to have some leverage to ensure that. Like, what are they going to do? Just sit there and say, we're not making money? Like, what can they actually do? What power do they have to leverage if things aren't going well to try to fix it? Typically, it's just, let's fire the CEO and hire somebody else. If it's something else, then we need to figure out what that is.
I don't know. What's the best practice, would you say? That's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know if I thought about that one so much. I mean, I was thinking just let them hire the person, because I would want to use holacracy, for the rest of the structure. And in that structure, I would adjust it a little bit since this is a community organization, but I would definitely have team leaders assigning people roles as a default, because if the team leader is responsible for making sure that everything that team needs to do gets done, and it's like, if they don't have any power to leverage to make that happen, then they're ineffective as a leader, right? So being able to say, you're doing this role, you're doing that role, you're doing that role, that's how they can ensure that. With holacracy, if somebody's not doing their role correctly, you can easily pull them out of that role without firing them. You can just switch people around. People have multiple roles. So it's not like this doomsday, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. It's just like, I think somebody else could do this better. And you pull them out and put them somewhere else. You can think about it the same way with the CEO role. You're not going to get fired necessarily. They just might not have that role anymore. So, letting the board just assign that to them, saying we think this is the most trustworthy person, and that board is elected. So, we think that we trust those people to choose the right person.
Mm-hmm. What would you recommend?
That's what I would do. I'd say,
decision.
Yeah, I would say go ahead and let them assign that role. And again, like, this could be changed once you have other people involved.
Right. Yeah. For having the sake of having the template together.
Well, you need to know where to start, because if people are like, well, who's going to be in charge, and you don't have an answer to that, that's a problem, when you're trying to get people to join your organization. So, saying, so the board, hires the CEO, and then they hire everybody else, and just like people understand that. They're like, oh, okay. They're not going to argue with it. The weirder you make it, the more people might go, huh. But, if you are using the distributed authority system like holacracy, then you've got a little bit of balance in that, it's less about like the CEO being the egotistical like person who's dominating over the entire structure. Because with holacracy, that person would be giving people roles and then saying, okay, that's your role, you go do it, and I can't micromanage you. But they would assign people to the roles, Yeah. So it's a balance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, the other option, and just the other options would be to have the management structure be more democratic, where people are elected as officers, but that's weird. It's kind of weird in a business setting. I mean, even in government, like there's the level of bureaucracy where people are just hired, Are you there? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, unless you have a different idea, that's how I'd go with it.
No, sounds good.
Okay. Let's just write it down.
For the sake of having it down.
Assigns. And do you have a preference on what that like lead person is called, or what you call leaders in general? In holacracy, it's lead links. I prefer just saying leader, like team leader, but CEO is what's typical at this level of management. Or you were saying you wanted like cooler names. So do you have any idea what you'd like to call that top leadership position?
I would just keep it generic for now, and then maybe in the future, as maybe it'll change. But I think like team something or
captain.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, I like it. It's gamey. I like it. Oh, the other option would be if the board actually assigned a few different roles at that level. So like the team captain and the captain of finance, or, like there could be a small handful of roles that they would assign instead of just one. And then that would make the decision-making structure at the very top level a little bit less coney. You don't have just one person hiring everybody. You've got this group of 3 to 5 people, hiring another 3 to 5 people. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Well, let's jump down to the roles because we already listed some roles that would be initially in that upper circle. So we could decide from the list of roles then which of them would be hired by the board and which would be hired by the team captain.
Right.
Does that sound good? Okay, so going down to where we were with that. We had just listed some random names that we could use for different roles, but then the ones we came up with to use for sure are accounting, business planning, grower, marketing, and fulfillment. So there's 5 roles right there. And none of these are team captain necessarily. I don't know if you could combine it with one of these, like business planning. Maybe the business planner is the team captain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, somebody's got to assign other roles in that team if there are going to be any other roles on that team, if that team is going to expand at some point, which I think it probably should be flexible enough to if you need to, you know.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna, let me see here. I'm just gonna relocate for a second.
Yeah. Getting some noise and stuff.
Yeah, I just got some traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. But I have to use cellular, as you know, because my internet's down.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably will get a better cellular signal, and it's a really nice day out here.
Ah, nice.
So let's just see. But
it's great. It's great.
Yeah, I like this. So we have 5, and just trying to think of something else. I mean, I'd like to have someone else who's also well versed in the farming and the growing aspect.
Yeah, we've got grower. We've got grower listed.
Grower. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Or head grower, we might say. Head grower. Yeah, something like that.
Just a bit more senior than myself, you know, who kind of knows a lot about that sort of thing. So.
So yeah, we don't have to decide right now on whether the board elects them or not, but like if we were to get a little bit more into the detail about these roles, so we already talked through the accounting roles. So to kind of reiterate for anybody who wasn't on last time, each one of these roles has a purpose, a list of domains, and a list of accountabilities. So the purpose is a simple statement similar to the purpose statement for the organization, which you can see written under Isaiah there. Oh, are you still there? Okay.
Sorry, I'm here. I did cut my video for 1 second.
And at least for the nonprofit, which is what we were talking about at the time, the purpose is improve wellness and access to affordable food within historically underserved communities, which is along the same lines as this cooperative. So yeah, a purpose statement should be something like that. For accounting, it's ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability, which is pretty broad. And we were talking about how actually under the accounting team, there could be teams that account for more than just money. They would account for impacts. Like if you're B Corp certified, then they could be handling all the B Corp paperwork. You have to track, all sorts of things for that to prove that you are environmentally and socially sustainable. So they could be tracking that in the accounting sphere. So to ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability is pretty broad, but it covers what it needs to cover. The domains include setting prices, set pay rates, set pay cycles, and choose software. So those are the things that role has the ability to make decisions about without having to get permission from anybody else. And then the accountabilities are track income and expenses, prepare taxes, bill customers, collect payments, pay bills, make purchases, and measure impacts. And then that one person would turn into a team and delegate pieces of that to their team members. But as a default, they would be responsible for making sure all of that gets done. So I think we did a really good job defining that role, and I suggest we just keep chipping away at this. As Isaiah and I were just saying before we got on, this is going a little slow, so we have time. We have time just talk and hammer things out and get practice doing this. And I think it is really good practice to define these things. So business planning. Okay. Do we want to call this role business planning, or should we change it to something else?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it articulates the role pretty good. Business advisor, something like that. Business planner. Yeah, those are good names.
Okay, well, let's just keep defining it. Maybe it'll become more clear. So what's the purpose of this role?
I would say like business compliance, work with accounting, occasionally to ensure that, there's compliance there. Yeah, I mean, it's an intricate part of the whole system, that role, I would think.
Well, so is it the same as team captain then? Is it kind of like the CEO role?
No, because I think that one is more so like a human resources, whereas the other is more, well, I mean, maybe it's all in one, or maybe even HR is like, well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they could be part of the same team or department, those two roles.
Well, I mean, as I was saying, like this role could become a team or department. So what's the overarching like sphere you think that anything like that would be in? Like, what domain are we talking about?
It's definitely human relations, I think, because they decide like what kind of employee it is, in line with the compliance stuff, that the proper documents and waivers or whatever they are, contracts are signed, and yeah, they facilitate the hiring process.
Okay. Human resources, hiring. And I'll just go down and mention that we did list under marketing some things that are a little bit similar but different. Public relations, social media, outreach, and recruitment. So if the marketing is going out and finding people, recruiting people, or at least advertising that they have jobs available, but then you hand that off to the hiring department that's in a completely different sphere. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ideally, and then they just they can work together. They can work separately, but all of these sort of roles they work together to keep things running smoothly. Because it's a lot of hats to wear for one person.
Sure. Okay. So I'm realizing that it seems to work better when we're defining these roles to start at the end, to start with defining the accountabilities, because that's what we've been doing so far. So human resources, hiring, ensure compliance. What else would be under the sphere of business planning? Like business planning, I would think, right? And what exactly is that? If you could think of an outcome that they would have to create, a business plan. But I mean, ongoingly, what would that be?
Well, it would probably be establishing goals and ensuring that we are like on the trajectory for those, or providing input like on how the organization needs to like adjust in order to get there. Like their intricate advisors and the overall, like, I guess you could say strategy
Yeah. Yeah. So like develop strategies.
Yeah.
Establish goals, develop strategies. Okay. Something about like communicating. I mean, it might go under strategies, like communicating strategies, because you said like advising. I'm thinking like how exactly they would do that. Is that by saying, hey, we thought of this strategy. Here's, I mean, if you're using holacracy, then you're not going to necessarily impose it unless you can with some sort of policy. It might just be a suggestion. But in holacracy, actually, they have a very clear definition of strategy, which I really like. And it is in there, it defines who's supposed to set strategies. I think it might have been the general company circle, or maybe the lead link that I'm thinking of, who's supposed to set strategies. And that would be the definition of a strategy is saying what you are preferring over another option. So if right now we are preferring to make more money over recruiting more people or something like that, like if there's some imbalance and we need to rebalance it, what's the tilt that we need to make? So we're going to do this instead of that, and that's the way you want to define a strategy, or else it doesn't really mean anything.
Okay. Right. So it's.
I just put down. Sorry, I was letting you mull over that. Developing strategies is in the business planning, and then I was saying like, how do you think they would communicate to the rest of the company those strategies? Or you'd said giving advice. Is there some other way of saying that, or would you say it that way?
Well, how would they implement it? I mean, they would have to communicate it somehow, like to everyone. So they'd have to. I mean, I guess there'd have to be like a process for that, or like a publication or something, like some kind of meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking of natural grocers where I work right now, and there's things like the nutrient to know about. So, somebody up in the higher ups decides, we are going to push vitamin D this month. And so that's a strategy that we're saying, hey, the entire company for the next, actually it's 3 months, we're going to have have contests between the different stores to see who can sell the most, and we're going to have lots of sales on it, and we're going to have displays, stuff. They make decisions like that. So is that the kind of decision you think that would be made in business planning department? Those kinds of strategic decisions, and then they would have to like implement programs, even policies, programs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I'm going to write implement strategic policies and programs. Yes. And I'm saying strategic because there might be other policies that other people, define.
Right. That they could, I guess, communicate to that department. Like, there's like like they have a suggestion box, or like, you send them an email or something like that.
Sure.
Do you have an idea? Yeah.
Okay, so develop strategies, implement strategic policies and programs, establish goals, ensure compliance. I mean, we could put a ... on what kind of compliance we're looking at, but let's just leave it kind of general. I think that would cover a few things. Human resources. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. For now. Probably will change, but.
Okay. I'm going to put the word provide in front of human resources. Provide human resources. Resources for your humans. Because they all start with action words. Hire employees. Ensure compliance. Establish goals. Develop strategies. Implement. Okay. I just wanted to make sure there was a verb going on here. Okay. So working our way up then, domains. What kinds of decisions in order to meet those accountabilities would they be able to make? And so we could just start with the first one, provide human resources. What would they be needing to make decisions on to provide human resources?
Well, I think that they definitely have an open door approach. So the team or the person is approachable, so that they can, find ways to work to resolve issues that are internal in the organization. Because people need to be heard, and I think that's really important.
That sounds more like an accountability. Maybe we should add it under accountabilities. So that would be like receiving and processing feedback or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, internally and externally, or perhaps, I don't know. Right now, I'm thinking more of a streamlined. So I'm hesitant to say, like, have a customer relations person, manager sort of department.
Well, in marketing, we've got, Ben's on. Hi, Benjamin. Ben says transparency is important. Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So that role has to facilitate transparency, or there has to be another role that facilitates transparency, but then you're adding another person. And then, so I'm just wondering, so in the very beginning, do we want, because there will be less work in the beginning, lesser work, or who knows, maybe there's going to be just as much because you've got to. So yeah, I don't know if it's you have one person to deal with internal and external customers, employee type things, help structure that, or you have two people.
It doesn't matter how many people, because it's you right now. All of these are you.
I know, and that's
you and everyone else is going to be receiving and processing feedback. I think is a part of everyone's role, but also having somebody who receives and processes general feedback about the company, not just about their particular role, I think is important. So I think that's what we've just put down here. So in order to do that, I'm trying to get to the domains, and it might help you if you don't have this open to have this document open looking at it, because it's hard to stay kind of focused maybe without seeing it in context. So the domains would be the things that business planner, let's just change it to business planner, this is bugging me, the business planner would be able to make decisions about on their own. And this is important. And when I work with community organizers, so often they have a hard time with this. It's just like, but we make decisions together. Somebody's got to make a decision without everybody having input at some point. Like what decisions does this person or team make about business planning in the organization?
Well, ideally, this is going to be someone who has experience with some type of business that relates to what we're doing, or co-op or nonprofit. So they would just, I think a big piece is like looking at the organization objectively and seeing how that fits in with like what they've done in the past, and kind of making sure we're just going in the right direction. They would ideally, this would be like a senior advisor type of person, or someone who's been on a board before,
Yeah, well, it's you. Don't think that. Don't think about other people doing these roles. Only think of yourself doing these roles, or this is going to take forever. Just like you are the business planner. What are you making decisions about as your hat on of the business planner?
Well, I mean, basically, I think we said the hiring part, the
okay, yeah.
I don't really know this right now with this one.
And we forgot to say hire and fire.
Right.
Unless you think there should be some other process for firing that doesn't include somebody making the final call.
Yeah, I mean, it should, on a smaller scale, when it's, smaller organization, just getting started, I think, made as a group. That's important.
You want to make that decision as a group to let somebody go?
Probably like the ultimate thing, because I hadn't thought about that.
Because then it becomes a popularity contest, and people vote to keep the person just because they don't want to hurt their feelings, even if they really should go.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Same with hiring. I mean, maybe like in a housing co-op where people are living together, it makes sense to make these decisions together. But generally, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of see a small team, deciding, hey, we want this person on our team, collectively deciding that. But it probably isn't a good decision for letting someone go. I don't know. I just see it creating a lot of drama.
Right. Well, let's just leave it like that. And okay. That's good for now.
Okay. And I mean, as I was saying, you could change it later, but it's hard to go back if you give people too much, say, then saying, oh wait, I think that only a few people should make these decisions. It's hard to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, hiring and firing employees. How about like allocating? I'm thinking like allocating budget for particular like human resource things. Does that sound right?
Allocating budget, yeah.
Okay. Allocating human resources budget. So I mean, whether that's whether or not we can afford company insurance, So making that decision, do we have enough money to do that or not, given the budget that we have, which will be set by the board. Although I think it's good for the management to come up with a draft of the budget and give it to the board, and then the board reviews it and maybe makes changes and then approves it. But yeah, you'd have to stick to the budget. So human resources, hiring and firing, compliance. Are there any decisions that business planner would have to make to ensure compliance? And I guess we're mainly talking about like legal compliance. Let me just put legal as a little specification there. Compliance policies, maybe? Set compliance policies.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, I mean, the policies generally in holacracy are set through the process of consent, where somebody says, okay, I see this is a problem that we need to solve. Here is my proposal for a policy that I think that we should implement in order to solve this problem, right? And then everybody, if they don't have a reason to block it, it passes, kind of like in consensus. So that's for policies, which could be like everybody needs to write down on this piece of paper, what they did this week or something like that, whereas I think this we're talking about right now is legal compliance policies. So like we have to do this or we'll get shut down by the food inspectors, right? So things that have to be done legally. Those are the kind of policies that this person or team would set. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a pretty that's a pretty good list of stuff. It's probably going to evolve.
Yeah. I mean, and then establishing those goals and strategies, defining goals and and maybe we should get a little bit more specific here about what kinds of goals, like yearly goals, what kind of, and I mean, do you have a particular system for setting goals that you like to use?
Well, I like the just idea of brainstorming, and I mean that's how I do it personally.
Yeah.
Doing that collectively is pretty cool. Again, having that open door tends to generate a lot of ideas, and then they can kind of be taken into consideration if they're feasible economically and culturally and things like that.
So you want to get lots of feedback from everybody, lots of ideas from everybody about what those goals should be. Yeah, I get that. And maybe just to define this further, like company-wide goals.
Okay. Company-wide, yeah, and then
specifically, and then everybody else can have their individual like role goals and whatnot, or
and project
goals. Yeah, exactly. So there's this system called OKRs that is in Measure What Matters by John Duer, I think. And the way that works is you define an objective, kind of like we're defining purposes here, and then you list the key results that you need to, make happen in order to meet that objective. And everybody defines their own objectives and key results, and then the company also defines some objectives and key results, and even team leaders can define those. And at each level, these are totally transparent. So, even the individual OKRs for an employee, they'll share those with everybody else, so everybody else can see what they're working on, right? And those would be set and then measured to see if they succeeded or not on a regular basis, whether that's like a quarterly basis or a yearly basis or something like that. So you'd have to like kind of at some point fill out a form probably to report on how well you had met your objectives and key results. So that's a kind of system like I'm talking about.
I like that. Yeah. So it's purpose-driven.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll just leave you with that, and we'll just put company-wide goals here again. So defining those company-wide goals would be a domain and an accountability, because you have the power to do it, and we also expect you to do it. So a lot of this, we're just kind of repeating the same things over because it is a power and a responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. And then setting strategic or defining strategic policies and programs. And is it, I can't write. Okay, and is it just defining, if I can type. Okay, is it just defining them, or is it defining and implementing? I don't know, everybody's kind of implementing that. So, well then, oh yeah, I put that under there. Sorry, I'm like jumping around. Implement. I put under accountabilities to implement strategic policies and programs. But maybe it's not implement there. Maybe it is ensure or something, because they're going to define it, communicate it, and then they need to make sure that it's getting done. I don't know.
Define and communicate strategic policies and programs. That works.
Wait. That's actually, okay. Under
Define, design, communicate, and facilitate.
Evaluate. Evaluate. Define and evaluate strategic policies and programs. Okay. Ben just told us evaluation. Thank you, Ben. I'm getting a little lost in the weeds with the words here, and we're getting near time already. Okay, let's just finish this roll really quick. I'm feeling a little scattered. Okay, and then receive and process feedback. Okay, yeah, I don't know how to respond to feedback. Is there a domain on that one?
Yeah. Respond to feedback.
Hold on. Decide responses to feedback. Something like that. Okay. So with all of these things defined now, what is the purpose? Can we come up with a purpose statement for this role? And Ben, help us out here.
So they are facilitating holistic business objectives, and facilitate and help to implement strategic business objectives.
Wait, did you say strategic? I heard holistic for some reason.
Yeah. Facilitate and, well, I don't know.
Facilitate's pretty broad.
Implement. Drive strategic business objectives.
I like that.
To ensure a transparent, holistic organization. I mean, it's pretty broad, but it hits on the general mission of that role, I think. Sorry, I'm a little for words right now. So,
yeah, I'm a little scattered at the moment.
It's hard when it's important and it's near and dear to your heart, and like myself, I can be self-conscious with my words because you want to say so much in such a small sentence. But yeah, ideally this is who is equally passionate and they can help define what their role is. And that's always pretty fun. It's like, we don't want to tell you what to do. We want you to tell us, the difference that you want to make, because all of our goals are the same.
Sure.
To an extent, we want that.
Yeah, and we're just coming up with a starting point. That's why I keep saying, just think about you doing this, because it's going to change, So we're just coming up with a starting point where you know what you're doing. And as soon as a new person comes on, then you can consider, okay, I think you would be good for this role, and hand them a chunk of the work. And you already know what that is. You don't have to sit here and think about it later when you've got a million other things on your plate.
And I'll go through some of these roles as well if it'll help us to make better use of our time. I'll go through and just do some generalities on head grower, marketing, and fulfillment.
Yeah,
just so I can jumpstart it. Yeah, because I do have some ideas for those, at least for the marketing.
Yeah, and now you have two examples to look at to think of kind of how to word those things. So that's why I wanted to do it some together to get some practice and to make these examples.
Yeah, and I've been looking at a lot of some webinars. I have some actually saved, like 7 of them, interviews with Mondragon. I guess they're employees, executive, what are they called? Anyway, yeah, just different conversations around that, and just trying to kind of learn from the greats and see how that can kind of be replicated on a smaller model. So, yeah.
Cool. I keep going back and forth between saying like set or setting, adding that ing to the verbs. I keep going back and forth on it. Okay, you can decide which one you want to use. Apparently, I'm not.
It's not easy at all.
So yeah. Yeah, there's a certain way they do it in holacracy, and I can't remember. I remember for one of these, it was use the ing, and I'm like, why?
Well, maybe there are some people out there who are very well versed with holacracy who could come on as consultants or as contributors or as board members who want to just contribute. Hey, I'm going to have 6 months, or hey, I'm going to, I can part-time project. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, let's put that out into the universe, into our audience right now. If somebody knows about has, I mean, I have had experience in holacracy, but if anybody else has some experience and wants to get involved, I just have to look up things sometimes. So cool. Yeah. Come on, get involved. Let's make this happen. So thank you for joining me. And thank you, Ben, for joining us. And whoever else is out there, it looks like a few people jumped on and saw us throughout the stream today. And yeah, next time we'll hopefully have a little bit more to work on so we can get this whole roles thing worked out. And I think after that we're talking I don't remember. If you want to find out where we're going with this, show up next time. I do have a Google Calendar, which I keep updated as much as I can with when the next stream is, and that is embedded on my website at regenerativedynamics.com. It's probably the best way to go right now, although I think the embedded stream isn't working. I have a lot to do, and I'm like on the wire trying to finish my master's degree. So please bear with me. Thank you for your patience, everyone. But soon everything will be up and running very smoothly. But the Google calendar should be accurate as to when this is happening again. So, okay. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.